Well, welcome everyone again. For those of you who are members of ICUBE and the Ideation Lab, it's so good to see you again, of course, as it always is. For those of you who are new to our sessions, who are joining specifically for this workshop, thank you so much for being here and welcome, period. My name is Kayla Sousa. I'm the program coordinator with ICUBE at UTM. So we're the hub for social entrepreneurship in the Peel region, as well as more specifically at U of T Mississauga. So we support students, alumni, and Peel residents who have business ideas. For those of you who don't know, who are not current members. Very excited for today's session on ethical marketing, as you can see on the lovely title slide there. And the session is going to be facilitated by Julianna from Promosaurus. Julianna, I cannot pronounce your last name. I'm going to try, and then please cut in before I read your lovely bio. Is it Van Adrichem?
Adrichem, but that was very good.
I'm way off.
No worries. No worries.
But thank you for saying that was a very good attempt. I appreciate it. So Julianna created Promosaurus after 15 years of experience growing social enterprises focused on solar energy, sustainable agriculture, waste reduction, land conservation, and other solutions for our environment. In 2019, she branched out on her own to expand her impact by offering marketing services to many more social enterprises that are doing crucial work for our societies and the planet. Her degrees in international development and biological sciences from the University of Guelph ensures that her communications align with the science behind the initiatives and allows her to bring an analytical approach to marketing and to see the larger picture. Julianna is currently a mentor in the RIGHTS, is that right? Ventures program with Innovation Guelph?
Yep.
Okay, 1 out of 2. Julianna, I'm pleased to throw it over to you, and I'm going to go on mute. I welcome everyone to stay on camera, of course, for today's session. It will be interactive at different points, so please do feel free to be on camera, but also please mute yourself when you aren't speaking to ensure that there isn't any interruption.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Kayla. Thanks. And it's so great to be in this online session with all of you. Thanks for taking time out of your evening to listen to what I have to say. And yeah, I'm excited to chat with you. If you have questions along the way, please put your hand up. I'd be happy to answer questions. I think we have plenty of time. But I probably won't see your messages in chat as easily. So putting your hand up could work. So I'd like to first acknowledge that I'm located in Guelph, Ontario, which is situated on the ancestral and unceded homelands of the Anishinaabe peoples, specifically the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the Haudenosaunee, and the Arawandronk neutral peoples. I am grateful for these original stewards of the land. So I expanded a bit on the title that we initially chose when we were in the planning stages to ethical, authentic, and greenwash-free marketing. But I think there could have also been a third option for the title. It could have been called marketing that doesn't feel gross. So that's a real thing. It's possible, and I want to help you with that. I've seen friends and clients feeling bad about doing marketing and feeling unsure as to what they can do because they're only familiar with the slimy kinds of marketing. They're doing amazing work, and I want them to be able to show their work to the world without feeling bad. I hope that I can inspire you to show the world how you're using your business as a force for good, to continue to work on the sustainability of your business and your impact, and to market your products authentically so that you can feel good about promoting your business and the good work that you do. I also hope that I make a difference by bringing some awareness to greenwashing. So ethical marketing is a real thing. It's possible, and I want to help you with that. I have a poll, and a question that we'll answer in chat as activities for you, and we'll also do a short breakout room further on. So let's get into it. I'm first going to share some of my story with you to provide some context. I originally got into marketing through my work as an environmental activist and advocate. While I was an undergrad, At the University of Guelph, I would go to protests and consider the communications used and their effectiveness. I also worked with other students to get the University of Guelph to eliminate styrofoam from campus, which we were successful with. And as part of the university's sustainability program, I expanded the recycling system, started the university off with their first outdoor recycling bins. That's that picture in the middle there that's really grainy, and worked to increase recycling rates in the buildings. Following that, I worked in different segments of the environmental sector, as Kayla mentioned in the intro. I worked in solar energy, sustainable agriculture, conservation, and waste reduction at the municipal level. I also eventually returned to the U of G to complete a degree in biological sciences. I looked at my colorful experience and realized that I have knowledge across many environmental sectors or areas, and that there was a theme of promotions and communications across all of those. I could put it all together with this business and serve those who are working to protect the environment by amplifying their voices, and do it with a science-based approach. So, however, throughout all of these experiences, I saw evidence that some marketers, especially at large corporations, were using marketing principles to manipulate people's perspectives and buying habits under the principle of what seems to be like sell at any cost. They also claim that their ecologically damaging products are harmless and deny or downplay the harm that those products cause. Of course, what I was observing was greenwashing in process. The more I learned about environmentalism and marketing, the more I saw how much of a role greenwashing has in the proliferation of our environmental challenges, and how important it is to be ethical and honest in marketing. So we have definitions time now, but only 3. So hopefully it's not too painful. And I put the whole definitions from the sources I was looking at on the slides for anyone who particularly likes them. So ethical marketing is a philosophy that informs all marketing efforts. It seeks to promote honesty, fairness, and responsibility in all of advertising. Other than the extremes, what is ethical or unethical is a really big gray nebulous area, but we'll do our best to deal with that by considering a general set of guidelines to evaluate marketing strategies. Authentic marketing, well, let's take a pause for a moment and take a look at this sign, because it's the funniest sign I wish I'd ever seen. I present to you the fancy 4-star motel. You can all see the issue with this sign as soon as you look at it, right? If that sign was really for a fancy 4-star motel, then surely it wouldn't be painted onto a white board that doesn't fit the frame properly. Or if the motel is as run down as the sign looks, maybe it instead should say motel that-a-way. So I guess, however, we can give them a little bit of credit because they didn't say it was 5-star. Ultimately, the branding and marketing doesn't line up with the reality of the business in this case, so it's not very authentic, but it is hilarious. So I needed to share. So authentic marketing, on the other hand, it means to be true to ourselves and our businesses while putting our best foot forward. This can only be done by discovering our true values, and working with customers who share those values as well. It also makes our potential clients and customers aware that we're here to serve them while having a responsibility to do that with an ethical approach. Unethical and unauthentic marketing has a stronger focus on making a profit without consideration of whether the thing should be sold at all and whether it's good for people and the planet. It can involve manipulation, exaggeration, pressuring, shaming, lying, and other tactics that aren't so nice. It's because of unethical marketing that people often say that they hate marketing or it feels icky. If you ever tried this kind of marketing, likely you knew in your gut that there was something wrong with it. You definitely feel it when you use these tactics, are used on you. For instance, there was a woman that I had known for several years, and at one point I was texting her and asking her about something that was, or I think we were just like talking about something remotely related to her services. So at some point she asked, hey, have we talked about my business and the services I provide in a while? And I was like, no, I don't think we have. And I told her that if she could just send me the prices, that would be great, because I did know the general, you know, spiel, like the general nature of what she was doing. So instead, though, she added me to her email system, and I got emails about the different benefits of her services each week thereafter, none of which unfortunately told me the pricing. So I didn't get the pricing. I eventually just went and looked on the website and found it within about a minute. So it was a little bit annoying, and I don't know like that I would necessarily choose to work with her in the future, because she didn't respond to what I asked for. So, I mean, that's a really mild example, but we're going to have some pretty hardcore examples of greenwashing soon. So in case you want those, they're coming. A couple other examples, there's exploiting pain points. And that is actually a really hard one, because avoiding pain, in the research, it's shown that avoiding pain is a much stronger motivator for us than pursuing pleasure. So it's not to mention that it can be done well, right? You can do it, I think, fairly ethically by being empathetic to people. And the thing is that businesses, the whole point is that we're solving problems, right? And making things better. But I guess I like to focus on the making things better part. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Also, unethical marketing involves creating unrealistic urgency to create anxiety in people. So, and sometimes that can be combined with lying to produce examples like this. By now, there are only 50 spots left, when in fact there's 500. So, and there's actually no reason to buy it right then and there. So those are just a few examples. Ethical and unauthentic models of marketing, I would say, are really outdated. And none of us want to feel like a used car salesman or to be lumped in with that stereotype when we're doing marketing, right? So, and actually the marketing research shows that this kind of marketing doesn't even work when it's perceived or like identified as being manipulative. As soon as people know that, they're really turned off. And there is a better way, and we'll get to that soon enough. So in the context of environmental impact, we need to discuss greenwashing. Meeting the SDG, so the Sustainable Development Goals, and getting through the climate and biodiversity crisis will really take a lot of work. What is needed is to produce and sell products that are actually needed, that are produced sustainably with quality or reclaimed products so that they last, and which are built to be easily reused or remanufactured or are composted into organic matter. I mean, that's the ideal, right? And that's really hard, but it is really hard. But it's things that we can work towards over time. Since the market demand determines what gets sold, right? Demand determines what's sold. For the market to choose a sustainable transition to such products, the market needs to be able to clearly identify which products fit those criteria. And it's hard to accomplish that when corporations are lying about the environmental performance of their products. Often companies that practice greenwashing spend more resources on marketing themselves as environmentally friendly and less on actually implementing effective environmental strategy, which is kind of sad. So greenwashing, it was officially added to the Merriam-Webster dictionary in just September of this year. So it's kind of surprising that it only happened this year, but I'm very glad it's there. So greenwashing is to make something such as a product, policy, or practice appear to be more environmentally friendly or less environmentally damaging than it really is through claims or actions. It fits into the category of unethical marketing because it involves misleading people, covering up and hiding the truth about a company's products or practices, justifying environmental degradation, and taking advantage of people's values to manipulate them into buying things that don't actually align with their values. Social washing, unfortunately, exists as well and is similar. It involves using marketing to make a company seem more socially conscious than it actually is. It can include showing symbols representing pride, like rainbows, making statements about about diversity and inclusion, or showing pictures of people of color and different ethnicity. Wow, I can't talk this evening. Or even showing the Ukraine flag, but while not actually contributing to working on the issues. And sometimes it's really easy to identify when it's really obvious stock photos that are used, like these ones. I wanted to let you know, though, that these issues are extremely important to me, and they are really important in general, but they're less of an area of expertise for me. So I'm going to continue to focus on the environmental side. So I just want to let you know that. Also, I wanted to mention that, like, these things, like I said, they're really important. So I would say, like, companies, if they realize there isn't an alignment in their values and the images and branding that they're putting on their website regarding these topics, they shouldn't just take them down. Instead, I want them to work towards, understanding the issues and providing solutions for them, making their workplace more safe, etc. So I just want to mention that it's not just take it down. No, do the work. All right, this picture is of an Extinction Rebellion demonstration at the UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow in 2021. You may know it as COP26. And it shows the frustrations of environmental activists with greenwashing. They were bringing greenwashing to the forefront because corporations have been using the powers of branding to mislead their audiences for decades. They make their products appear more environmentally friendly by using terms like green, natural, ecology, science, and other catchy phrases, as well as using colors, statements, certifications, and other tactics to increase sales and maximize profits without doing the actual work to be more sustainable. So their actions and messages ultimately don't align, transparency is missing, and their contradictions are numerous or really significant. I'll give you a couple examples of greenwashing, and these are more extreme, but they make it easy to explain. One sec. Okay, so Keurig Canada, they are to pay a $3 million penalty to settle Competition Bureau's concerns over coffee pod recycling claims. Nevertheless, I was on their website and it still states this. Quote, in Canada, we achieved this critical milestone of 100% K-Cup pods made with recyclable plastic 2 years in advance, I guess, of their goals at the end of 2018. Please note that K-Cup pods are recyclable in select locations. They may not be recyclable in your area. Please check with your local recycling facility for updated information. So I guess they had their PR firms working hard to identify what they could still say without getting in trouble, because the thing is, K-Cups are not recyclable anywhere. I've worked in the recycling industry, and I can say that with this mixture of coffee grounds, paper filters, plastic cups, and foil, they would need to be completely separated perfectly to recycle these. And that's essentially impossible. And in addition to that, the plastic cups are not a good quality plastic, so they probably wouldn't be recycled anyways. So I'm not sure if Keurig just sees this as the cost of doing business, or what's going on, that they still have that message on their website. But hopefully telling you about this makes a difference. And maybe if you tell your friends and switch to the reusable pods, and that's what makes this even more frustrating, is because the reusable pods totally work. That's what we have here at our house. So I don't even know why they sell these disposable ones. I guess there's some, it's convenient, but at this point, we should maybe all just do the work to, rinse out reusable ones. Anyhow, so that's Keurig for you. And I'm not going to spend too much time explaining how big oil has used misinformation and greenwashing to discredit concerns about their industry and climate change, because at this point, I think most people are fairly aware of that, but I want to show how the PR firms behind them have been the ones to formulate the misinformation for the messaging. Because it's, I think, really, it was really shocking. Well, it wasn't like a news to me, but I was glad to see that the PR firms are starting to be held accountable. So Jamie Henn, the director of fossil-free media and clean creatives, put it well. He said that scientists have been sounding the climate alarm for decades, but they've been drowned out by billions of dollars of PR and advertising from the fossil fuel industry. And the only way to clean it up is to stop the propaganda at the source, the PR and ad agencies that continue to work on behalf of fossil fuels. It's time for creatives to come clean, and I totally agree. So some of the big marketing firms that are involved with the PR campaigns for big oil industries include McKinsey, WPP, Edelman, and IPG. So now you know who they are, you can send them messages. They have knowingly been contributing to the proliferation of misinformation that has perpetuated the key drivers of the climate emergency. Shame on them. There is some good news about this, however. They have been accused of obstructing climate action, and there has been a US congressional hearing over the last year on climate disinformation, which has paralleled the 1994 hearing that led to the downfall of big tobacco. And those PR firms are getting pulled into this whole hearing process. So fingers crossed, some good changes come out of that. So as a startup company, especially social entrepreneurs, which I'm sure most or many of you are, I'm sure that you're not participating in that level of greenwashing, but I wanted to show the extreme cases. Otherwise there'd be this, big elephant in the room, and that has to be acknowledged. But greenwashing does still happen on the smaller scale, and I think usually it happens by accident. So I don't mean to shame anyone that this has happened to. I've seen it happen a lot when with what is supposed to be biodegradable plastic bags and other plastic items, where small businesses are also proud to use them. And I feel so bad because they're like, we have biodegradable cups. And I'm like, oh, not quite. Because if it doesn't have the Biodegradable Products Institute label or certification on it, it's a mixture of plastic and plant material. And if you put it in a composter, it'll look like it's breaking down, but it actually just breaks down into smaller pieces of plastic. So it's time for a poll. I would like to know if you have found it hard to sort through greenwashing and to identify what products to use to be more environmentally friendly in your business. So thank you, Kayla, for launching that. So one person has found it hard. Two, someone's found it a little bit challenging. Oh, someone said no, so that's great. I'll assume that person is like quite knowledgeable on these topics and can see really well through greenwashing. So that's awesome. And I hope that you share your skill with your friends. Awesome. I'm assuming that by now, oh, there's still some people adding their answers. That's probably good. Shall we end the poll? All right. All right, so yeah, about 60% have found it hard to sort through greenwashing and to identify what products they should use to be more environmentally friendly. So I totally understand why that is difficult. And another 30% said that it was a little bit difficult. And one person said that they haven't noticed. So yeah, this is totally understandable, and I'm definitely not meaning for anyone to feel bad about it. The corporations that are selling like the products like at the large scale, they are making it hard to see through intentionally. So yeah, so it makes sense that, you know, there's someone that hadn't noticed. But I hope that after this presentation, you might be able to pick it out a little bit more easily, and hopefully we'll, yeah, be able to find some ways of avoiding products that are greenwashed as well. All right, so I believe that that's what I have next. There we go. Yes, avoiding greenwashing. Like I said, it's quite hard, I'm not going to lie, but here's a few of my suggestions to avoid greenwashed materials that you can actually have a positive impact. So research the companies, of course, that's hard as well. I mean, it takes a lot of time, but if you learn about the environmental issues and what is sustainable, then you can identify more easily where something falls along the scale. I mean, it's really hard for something to be perfectly sustainable, but where is it along there? And also, once you start learning about these things, you know, these issues and how to identify greenwashing, you'll start to be able to apply it to many more scenarios, and it'll get a lot easier. So another thing to look for is certifications, and do some research about them and learn about how like transparent and authentic they are themselves. And also look at how the product is packaged and other things about it, that other things that the company does. So does the company's actions align with sustainable values? I did a YouTube video about excessive packaging by doTERRA and compared it to the very efficient packaging of the COVID tests, which we are all quite familiar with. Both of which had very different amounts of packaging for nearly the same amount of content. So I'm gonna play a quick little bit of my video here.
I have about 20 at least of both of these. So, you know, I know that we love convenience, but let's think about whether we need convenience with all the issues that we have in the world. How much do we need? All right, so I just want to show, like, okay, this is all we had, 50 milliliters of product.
Yeah, so that's the product right there that that I'm pointing to. That's like the only usable stuff. And that mountain of packaging is what it came in. There were like 3 or 4 layers of packaging. So I'm not sure whether they promote themselves as an environmentally friendly company. But at this point, with all of the issues we have around deforestation and climate change, I really think that all companies should be working on that. And yeah, and on the other hand, the COVID test, which at this point in the video is sitting behind me there, that had like a fairly comparable amount of product, but the government produced those, right? So they want to be really efficient with their costs and their budget, so they packed it as efficiently as possible. Anyways, I'll let you go and find this on YouTube if you want to see the rest of it. Hopefully you enjoy that. You get to see our very old apartment. Okay, so you can also, to avoid greenwashing, use websites that help to identify greenwashed items. There are some directories that show how companies rate for greenwashing, like goodonyou.eco and greenwash.com. And you can also search, does company, you know, Coca-Cola, greenwash, and you'll get some results to the answer of that question. So if any of you have knowledge of search engines like directories that can help to show the environmental performance of different companies, please share it in the chat for each other. And I'll get the chat later. So I'd love to see what other directories you guys know of. All right, so other ways to avoid it: shop local from small businesses. Those typically greenwash a lot less and also have much more sustainable practices. I mean, I can't say that for 100% of them, but as a general rule. And work to reduce waste as much as possible. So you can do that by trying to avoid plastics and other disposable materials as much as possible. And if you live in Toronto or Guelph, there are now programs, for instance, with takeout, like places that serve takeout, where they have reusable containers that you can get your takeout in. So yeah, there's a lot of things like that coming up now. So I encourage you to look into that stuff. Also, so that's very connected to the last point, which is to work on eco-friendly lifestyle options in general that don't rely on products from corporations.
Maybe the
Whoops. Of course, I'd love to see how to see much better regulations on how products are marketed to prevent greenwashing. There's some good news on this. In France, as of 2021, companies will be held accountable for false advertising under the Consumer Code in France, with fines up to 80% of the false promotional campaign cost, a correction on billboards or in the media, and a 30-day clarification on the company website. So that's some good changes happening in France. Also, the organics regulations in Canada prevent the terminology of organics from being produced, from being on products in the food industry that are not certified. And this certification system for organics, it was created by farmers and people wanting to make food free from chemicals at the grassroots level. And I know some of these people, and they're really good people. Like, there's the best of intentions with it. And I personally really trust the organic certification in Canada. I know the certifiers as well, and they all work really hard. So that is one that I do support. All right. The only limitation is that it doesn't cover products that don't cross provincial or national borders. So it's only those products that need to be certified. So sometimes local vendors will use it inappropriately, but I would hope not. But otherwise, if it's been crossing borders and it has this label, the Canada Organic label, then it is certified organic. So my friend Kat, she posted about this event on LinkedIn, and she was asking about certifications. I think that, like I said, organics does work, but it gets washed out by terms like natural, which is not regulated. And then there's also some certifications like B Corp, which I've heard conflicting things about how much they verify the companies that get the certification. For instance, I heard from a lawyer that works in the industry that they don't verify it, while I heard from someone that got certified that they did verify and check into their application. So it's a little unclear. And we can talk more about that later if you guys want. Okay, but now on to the solutions. Finally, enough of feeling gross already. There are many businesses that genuinely want to make a positive impact, and I'm going to assume that you're involved in one of those since you're here. People want to connect with purpose-driven brands that align with their values, so you should not keep your eco actions to yourselves. Be proud of yourself and the business for the actions that you're taking. Promote yourself and let people know about the awesome work that you're doing. To market ethically, authentically, and sustainably, it starts with the product. Do people actually need it? Is the product sustainable? Is it produced and transported sustainably? Is it recyclable? And does it stay in circulation for a long time, after which it's returned to the earth in a sustainable way? Obviously, meeting all of those criteria would be really hard, but we can keep working towards it, right? A great idea is to have sustainability integrated into your business plans and to work to improve your environmental performance over time and continuously. And another great idea that I would highly recommend is to have an environmental consultant on board, like as one of your supports to your business, so that you can get input from them on, their recommendations for for increasing the sustainability in your business. To market authentically, start by getting clear on your business's values and then align your actions with those values. Make sure the actions of your organizations are living out the values that you state you have and communicate the values accurately. Make sure that the actions and messages align. So if you say that you care about the environment, your organization should at least be doing all the easy environmental stuff. For instance, if you own a cafe, don't provide plastic cutlery. And work to limit contradictions that can give the impression that you're not genuine and maybe greenwashing. It's really not possible to be perfect, but try to limit it, and we'll talk more about that after. Be transparent. Give the green activities the amount of attention in the marketing that is proportional to how the green actions stack up against everything else. Market and talk about things that you're an expert in. Do research or get input from experts to make sure that what you're saying is accurate. So I provided an image here of a journal article. As this presentation is through the University of Toronto, Mississauga, I'm sure most of you are familiar, but if you get the recording here, I've got a link here for anyone that wants to information on how to more easily identify journal articles. But if you don't want to go digging into the research, you can also, like I said, find an environmental consultant or other experts that can help to verify what you're doing and what you're saying. So rather than making repeated statements that you're eco-friendly, sustainable, natural, fair trade, etc., share what actions you are taking and the effect of that on your business's sustainability. For instance, instead of saying we're eco-friendly, well, you know, you could still say that, but add that we are switching to cloth napkins and using detergents for washing them without synthetic fragrances so that we contribute less to the deforestation and pollution of our waterways. So for catchiness and marketing purposes, I think you'd still want to say we are going eco-friendly, but showing how and why will help people to understand and will give some more credibility to that statement. But let's realize that we're all human. There are going to be flaws, and that is okay. More about the contradictions in 1 second. They're really hard to avoid, especially in a society where the cheaper, easier options are usually riddled with environmental and social issues, and that sometimes trying to make one thing more sustainable can create or expose other eco or social issues, kind of like the domino effect, right? And if a cafe wants to become more green, for instance, and they want to move away from disposables and they get ceramic cups, they'll need a dishwasher, which will increase water and soap usage. So the quest to be eco-friendly continues, and with it, the assessment of how each change will affect the environment. And that can be a lot of work, but by having sustainability as part of the organization's plans and mission, the cafe can improve their environmental impact on a continual basis. And don't let the fear of contradictions keep you from communicating the work you're doing to increase your environmental sustainability. I know no one wants to share the cons, but when you can say, yeah, we need to use more water to wash the cloth napkins, but we're really proud that we no longer have disposables that cut down forests and fill up landfills, you're actually helping your audience with the decision process and showing the benefits. And you're also bringing awareness to the environmental consideration. And fourthly, bonus, working towards these environmental improvements provides an opportunity to engage with the audience because you can share the efforts that your cafe is taking to become more green. So like some easy content for your social media. So I also really want to mention that environmentalists and people who are dedicated to social justice are often so conscious of the issues that shame can come along with self-promotion, and we can tend to devalue or dismiss our important work. I don't want you to do that. Be proud of your work and show it to the world. So let's do a quick activity just in the chat. And if you would like to share what about marketing authentically you find to be most challenging, whether it's the domino effect of trying to do one thing, trying to improve one thing and it leads to another, or a fear of being judged for not doing everything perfectly. I'd like to just know what you guys find challenging about marketing authentically. So I'm going to open the chat here. Oh, thanks so much, Kayla, for putting that in there. I see that some people shared some websites, so that's really great. All right, no answers yet. How about you, Kayla? Do you have anything that you find challenging about being authentic, or whether it's in marketing or just in our society?
Absolutely. So I was going to say that I really appreciate, you talking about the fact that our culture is kind of set up in a very particular way that's catered to like convenience and kind of almost feels like it's setting us up for failure sometimes. I'll say just, when I'm supporting entrepreneurs, and you've actually seen this, Julianna, yourself, because you've come to our events, it's really difficult for me because I want to support. As an incubator that looks at social entrepreneurship, we talk a lot about things like sustainability. And yet when we're planning events, there's so many things that we have to take into account, like marketing materials, how much paper do we have versus how much it's going to be, with QR codes and things like that. Food waste. So we don't want people to go hungry at an event. We want to make sure we can entertain people comfortably and not have people leave those reviews where they say that they were not pleased with catering, but then if people don't eat, then we have a ton that's left over. And with the campus that I work at, there's a lot of rules around what we can do with that food afterward, unfortunately, and we can't support like a food bank for whatever reason. So especially if it's like an evening event. Mm-hmm. And so I sometimes get anxious about planning events, because I care about these issues in my personal life, but yet I know that when it comes to things like the cutlery, or like I said, the food and the food waste, or the branding and the materials, I just feel like we're not going to do it perfectly. And again, supporting entrepreneurs who many of them come from backgrounds and have enterprises that look at those issues, especially, I want to support them. I want to be aligned with them and what they're doing. And I don't want to kind of not only look bad myself, but I don't want to not do them justice. And so I get anxious sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear ya, and I know what that's like to be worried. You're wanting to set a good example, it sounds like, and also show, provide them in a space where they're able to operate sustainably as well. So I understand that would be that is tough. But I think you're doing a great job. And yeah, unfortunately, you're limited sometimes by the institution that you're in, right?
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah. So, and I worked at a university as well for a while, so I totally understand.
Even like tabling. Sorry to cut you off, Julianna.
Yeah,
like fairs and stuff. I love your YouTube channel, so I was happy that you plugged that video with packaging, because I love to watch you like unbox it all. Yeah. And there was another one you had about business cards. Yeah. And so I'm kind of struggling with that too, now that we're back in person at those tabling events. Like people want swag, they want something to take with them, but what do I give them and also feel good about myself?
Yes. Yeah, I know. And there's so many things that like, I'm even guilty of liking swag only because I'm like, I like little presents, but like, I'm trying to get myself off of that. And the thing is that half of the swag are things that we don't need. So, I think that when you're looking at getting swag, you can look at like, is it stuff that people will really use? And do they really need it? And is there like a sustainable option? So when I was at the Innovation Expo in Guelph a few weeks ago, Invest Guelph had those, they're like the plastic sporks, which unfortunately were still wrapped in plastic, which is like, I do not understand, but it was something that encourages like an environmental, like low waste lifestyle. So that's good, you know, and or can you get like packets of seeds and stuff like that? So you know, what kind of environmental stuff can you opt for? And I have also seen that people have like started to put QR codes on the table. Like well, the one friend of mine, she had it printed right onto the tablecloth, but the problem with that is that if you change a link, now you need a new tablecloth. So instead, I would print it onto a piece of paper and stick it on the tablecloth. And that way, then you don't have to have pamphlets for everything. Yeah. So I totally hear you. Okay. So Juliet had,
And Daniels, there's a couple there,
yes.
Julianna, that have come in.
Yeah, thanks. So I see Daniel said it can be tough to find messaging that makes everyone happy. Yes, that's true. So making sure that the proper research is done to find the best overall messaging. Yes, for sure. And that can be, you can look at that from several different perspectives, like the best overall messaging for like creating the biggest impact, and also for you know, being the most authentic and whatnot. Yeah, it is hard with marketing. That's the thing. Marketing can seem like something that's like there should be a perfect way, but there isn't either. It is an art, and you know, you can always work to improve it. So that I think is something that can perhaps help with this, like on the quest to be authentic in your marketing. And also effective, to see your marketing and your branding as something that can be like in development all the time, that you're always working on. I hope that's kind of helpful. Okay. And Juliet, she says, I know businesses that don't want to invest in certifications because they will have to raise their prices up. So they rather not be certified, even though they do qualify. Yeah, that is a really, a legitimate thing, legitimate concern and choice. And I think though that it doesn't have to limit you too much, because if you are working in the community, and depending on who your target market is, there are ways of finding people and showing that they can trust you without having the certification. So trust can be built in many different ways. And about the swag, she says, yes, it's a challenge to stay top of mind with our clients while not contributing to waste. And that's why I'm trying to just stick with the business cards as much as possible, which is also cheaper for us. Because then I think I can stay enough on top of mind by giving them something that hopefully stays on their desk for a while, or on their fridge or something. Without having to provide something that just ends up in the garbage or at the bottom of a drawer or something. Okay, all right, let's move on now. There we go. Okay, let's look at what we can do instead of some of the classic icky marketing tactics. So urgency. It's okay to have deadlines and remind people of them. For instance, we just had Halloween yesterday. That had a real date, right? You couldn't just be like, oh, well, I'll do Halloween in a week from now. So, you know, people had to have their outfits and whatnot ready in time for that celebration or event. So it's okay to remind people a few days before, hey, Halloween's in 3 days. And if you want, and if you, sorry, wow, I'm butchering this. So if you want to make an offer available, it's fair to have boundaries for how long it'll be available as well. So, you know, you can do that fairly by, you know, providing enough time. But you know, if you decide like 25% off, you're not going to just provide that 25% off all the time, right? It has to have a deadline. Otherwise, you have just lowered your prices. That's all. So that's not necessarily the best for your business, right? But causing a sense of urgency, you know, like I said, we need to do it in a fair way, because who are we to be causing someone stress? So let people have time to think about the options that they have, and respect that they have other things going on in their lives. We talked a little bit earlier about pain points, and that it can still be used. And I think if we see that as an opportunity to be empathetic, that can be a solution. And in terms of competition and how we talk about competition, instead emphasize on those aspects that make your offer stand out from the rest of the pack. So using your competition's messages instead of, that's not so good either, right? We can't do that. But instead, if you focus on your own products and the value proposition that you offer, and you look at how you want to connect with people yourselves, then you can avoid copying your competition or saying things about them that aren't, that are other than favorable. So overcharging and price gouging, we don't want to do that. Instead, charge fairly for the value you provide. Now, I also do want to say that social enterprises have a tendency to undercharge because we are so passionate about social justice, for instance. So don't do that either. You know, you have to be fair to yourself. I'm probably just, you know, preaching to the choir here. You guys like don't need to be told to not price gouge. But anyways, spamming, right? We don't want to spam, and there are also regulations around that. And if you review and get familiar with the Canadian anti-spam legislation, you can find that at, sorry, I forgot to show you that picture. You can find the legislation at fightspam.gc.ca. That can help to provide some guidelines so that you can be confident that you are emailing people in a good way. And even if you are allowed to send the email, think about what you're sending and how you're sending it. And also another pointer on the emails, don't pretend to know someone if you don't. And just use the other principles that we've been discussing here in your emails as well. And in terms of sustainability, use reasonable packaging, eco-friendly products, look at making the transportation of your products more efficient and sustainable, and think about the end of life of those products and communicate these things to your audience. Building trust and relationships is a key way to create loyal customers and a great way of developing the ethics and authenticity of your business. Part of the problem, I think, that leads people to market with dishonesty is that we're pressured by society to be perfect and we feel a need to exaggerate. It's kind of like how we feel that we need to only show our best and most impressive things on social media. So I think that we should challenge that by showing up authentically. When you're genuine, honest, and can share the pros and cons, the audience knows that they can trust the organization and whether the company is the perfect match for them. So work on getting certifications as well for your social enterprise within your specific industry, if your budget allows, right? That came up earlier. That will provide standards to drive your efforts and to show your audience that a third party has verified that you do what you say you do. By having the certification, we set our organizations to be responsible to meet a set of standards, and it makes us accountable, and it also encourages us to grow. So there are lots of benefits to it, but it has to make sense for your business. Now, like I said, I touched on a little bit earlier, you do have to watch out for some certifications and think about the values that they add, because some of them are used to greenwash, and if they're used enough for that reason, then it's really washed out, and aligning yourself with it might not be super helpful. So another way to build trust and relationships is to show interest in their lives when you see them. And when you're interacting with them, say thank you, be courteous, and just think about them as people that you want to get to know and have good, meaningful connections with. So I'll give a quick peek at how I market in case that's helpful. So I focus on making sure that people know what I do, who I do it for, and that they can see if it's a good match for them. I just lay it out, and if they want it, they can take it. And if they don't, that's fine. I move on, and there's lots of work out there. It's like serving food to guests. You would never pressure them, trick them into eating something, or lie about the ingredients. I mean, that's dangerous. People can get sick if you do that. So we shouldn't do that in our marketing either. So I make sure that my value proposition is clear, and I focus on the benefits that I can bring to my clients. I build on relationships by being honest and upfront with people, building on word of mouth, following up with people, showing gratitude, and doing things I say I'm going to do. And I'm not perfect, but I do my best. And those are some of the ways that I do it. So now we'll do breakout rooms for about 5 minutes. And the question that I'd love for you guys to talk about is, what is something that you're doing that is sustainably focused, and how could you communicate it with authenticity to show the great work that you're doing while also showing where you have opportunities to grow? So I think that, yeah, Kayla will put you into the rooms.
Yep. So everyone should have a prompt now, and I'll also send the message out. I'll broadcast a message with that question to the group.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
We could also pause the recording for a moment. Shall we do that?
Absolutely.
Oh. Awesome. Welcome back to the main room. I hope that you guys had a great conversation. Does anyone want to share something that they talked about in terms of how they communicate some sustainable efforts that they're taking, how they communicate that authentically? Does anyone want to share anything? You can just unmute yourself and give us an example.
Our group was a little bit different because not many of us had ventures. So we were talking about what we do in our personal lives to be more sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually got into quite a lengthy discussion on laundry and how to carefully care for your clothes to prolong their life, and how we shop for the quality of fabric and clothing.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I have recently gotten into like improving my clothing longevity and repairing it and stuff too. So yeah, that's really great, and a good way to counter fast fashion. Does anyone else want to share? Back to what you guys were talking about the clothing, when you share those things with your friends, I know then it doesn't have too much to do with your social enterprise, but it's a good way of helping to promote and just bring awareness to the environmental issues and to get people to think about those kind of like more sustainable lifestyle options, right? So that's really awesome. Does anyone else want to share for a moment?
Yes, just oh, sorry, did I interrupt anybody?
No, you go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Yes, we actually discussed a challenge, which is the persons present in the break room don't have that I guess that position to actively brainstorm and create that type of communication. So it comes to another department to take care of this. So I guess, do you have any tips on how to address when you're not in charge of the communication, how to communicate this?
That is a really interesting one. I usually work with small businesses, so I haven't come across that in a little while. But I think that, for instance, you could share this presentation with those people who do make those decisions, right? And say like, hey, I just was participating in this webinar about ethical and authentic marketing, and I saw some opportunities for this organization or this business. And I thought I would share this with you and see if you have any, see what you think about it. And you could also offer, you could also say like, hey, and if you ever want to chat about it, I'd love to have a coffee with you sometime, like, or maybe we could talk about it over lunch sometime. And I'd love to help with seeing how we could adjust, if there's ways that we can adjust the marketing at our company. So, sharing options and resources, and then offering to talk about it in like a safe and, friendly way is what I would suggest for that. But yeah, I get that can be difficult and feel a little bit scary. And yeah, it's a little bit difficult when you don't have control over it yourself. I think that's one reason why I like to have my own business.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Julianna. I saw that Shannon wrote in the chat, but I know you were going to come and unmute yourself. Would you like to verbally add anything to discussion as well?
No, it was really just on the laundry discussion. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't have a product-based business. I have a service-based business. So reducing, like having sustainable efforts, it's just, I do that in my personal life. So yes, just switch to the laundry detergents. Nature Clean is the one. We found the Nature Clean ones. I was going to order the True Earth ones. I keep seeing Facebook ads for that. Clearly they're paying attention to what I'm paying attention to. AI and all that,
Yeah.
But just tried the True Clean laundry detergent strips. Who knew that a little strip could wash clothes? But they do, and way less waste. So that was just that was it. It wasn't about, I wasn't actually answering the question. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, and the other thing about those dry strips is that like when those are being shipped around to get to stores, they weigh so much less. So there's a lot less carbon emissions going into their transportation, which I think is like really great. But I haven't tried the product myself yet. We have jugs and we refill them at the refill stores. Anywho, yeah, I think like it's interesting for service-based businesses because we do work in our own home. So the sustainability of our business is really tied in with the sustainability of our lifestyles and our home office. So, you can work on that. And then you can also share those efforts with your audience too, right? So I know, Shannon, you have solar on your roof. So you could, and I think that you do in your marketing share some information about your solar and how you have that and you love it and whatnot. So that's just one example, right? And if it was me and I was doing that, I'd be like, yay, my home office is going to be powered by solar. We're getting solar. Like all the energy I use for this is coming from the sun. Isn't that amazing? Anyhow, so that's just one example. But yeah, I think there's still space for the people that work at home to talk about that stuff. And authenticity is also like something to bring into like marketing other areas of your business and your work as well, right? Authenticity and ethics. But I think that we get that. All right, cool. So we're pretty much at the end. The overall goal with regards to ethical and authentic marketing is to get your marketing aligned with what is actually being done in your business, to be open and honest with the right audience, and to build a strong brand that you feel good about so that you have your audience flying towards you and that they keep coming back to your hive. I just had to make kind of a pun, except it's not a great pun. As I said near the beginning, I think that other than the extremes, what is ethical or unethical is a really big gray area. So if you're someone who is concerned about what is the right thing to do, and you're feeling like you're agonizing over whether something in your marketing is right, likely you're good. So don't be too hard on yourself. But on the other hand, if you do something, you're preparing a post or you're writing something for your website and something about it just doesn't feel too right, and you leave and you're like, oh, I don't know that I would want people to read that, then just take it off, just remove it and see if you can write something else and see if that feels better. So it's like a balance of like not giving yourself a hard time, but also like do what feels good. So finding strategies that, like I said, find strategies that you feel good with And I hope that I've provided some here, and that this is helpful for you with your social enterprise, whether one that you have now or in the future. So thanks so much for having me here at iCube. Please feel free to get in touch anytime. On Instagram, I share tips and my sustainability efforts, some environmental news, and other fun stuff. On Facebook, I have a page called Marketing for Eco Leaders, where I curate marketing information with an environmental focus for social enterprises. And I also welcome you to connect with me in any of the other ways. Yeah, so that's it from me, and I'd love to chat for longer if anyone has questions.